And a good day to you, Explorer Nation. John Lynskey, your ambassador for Alumni Affairs, here with Season 6, Episode 15 of Looking Back with Lynskey. And today's guest, a mainstay of the English department and the football program, a graduate from the class of 1992, 27 years, an explorer, educator. He came from the West Coast. He wandered back out. He came back home again, this time to stay. It is a pleasure to welcome to the podcast Mr. Juan Moscoso.
It's good to see you, brother.
It's good to be here, Juan. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been quite a journey for you, and as we usually do, we're going to start, everybody's got a different journey. Yours was literally a journey to Columbus High School. So tell us how a West Coast boy ended up in Westchester.
Yeah, spent my formative years in all over SoCal. Ended up at Modern Day High School and was having the time of my life when my dad, who worked in the airline industry, got transferred to Miami. And it happened to be my senior year. So, needless to say, I was less than enthusiastic about leaving a really good school on the West Coast and coming to a city I knew nothing about, not in any way, weather, culture, schools. It was brand new.
And to your point, and we all know this, there's nothing harder to leave for your senior year. You're established, you got your boys, you got your routine, you got your team, you got everything. And it's one thing to be the new kid in town as a ninth grader. It's a whole different deal to be the new kid in town as a senior, particularly here, because that almost never, ever happened back then. It was only an extraordinary circumstance because you were coming in from out of state, which was the only exception. So tell us about, adjustment is not the right word, but, what was it like stepping into this place and this city?
I'll never forget getting out of the plane. It was one of those where you actually came out to the outside.
On the tarmac, yeah.
You could taste the air.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I remember, and I'll never forget it. I was like, what jungle have we moved to?
You're in the Mekong Delta.
You could taste the air. And, next thing I know, I go from a co-ed Catholic school, well-known, to an all-boys. And that was soul-crushing. That was absolutely just bizarre to me. I really felt like it was like a lot of our incoming freshmen and our transfer students. I felt like it was the end of the world.
You were a stranger in a strange land.
I can't do this. This is not for me.
Yeah.
Where's this Aquinas at?
Yeah. So what allowed you to start to make the adjustment? And what were some key moments you got 1 year. How'd you make the most of it?
It's funny. I will never forget Brother Felix till the day I die, because if it wasn't for Brother Felix, we wouldn't be sitting here today. My dad went to a Marist school in Peru.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up at Columbus. When we moved here, it was a tiny little article in the corner of a newspaper, and you might even remember him, little black and white, Christopher Columbus High School, and then just tiny print, Marist. And my dad just looked at me and said, I went to a Marist school, you're going to a Marist school. And I went to the meeting with a shirt and tie, and it was just me, my mother, and Brother Felix. And first thing my Brother Felix said was, we don't accept senior transfers. Yeah. So, this is going to be a tough sell. Luckily, I was a good student, and, no DTs. And I remember him saying something like, we're going to take a chance, and we're going to let you in. And every time I see Brother Felix, I tell him thank you. I'm like, brother, you started something, So that was something that it resonated with me. It's something that I'll forever be grateful for, because that's what got the ball rolling.
Okay.
And like I was telling you earlier, I will never forget the passion, because the social aspect of it was complicated, but made friends and all that good stuff. And but what amazed me was how every teacher I had in that 1 year taught their class like it was the most important thing in the world. Canella, if you were to ask him, nothing mattered more than physics. If you asked Rene Rodriguez, nothing mattered more than math. If you asked Mr. Buckholz, nothing mattered more than English. Dennis Ruggiero, nothing mattered more than religion. And it was just period after period after period. And I love that. And that's why I tell my students all the time, it's amazing to be able to say that I remember more teachers from my 1 year at Columbus than I do from my 3 years in Mater Dei. And again, that's nothing against Mater Dei, but that's just my personal experience. And it's really more about the kudos for Columbus than anything else.
And you played football, and you've got the scar on the knee to prove it, as we all do. Hard to be a senior 1 year, but you fit in with the guys. You've had some great teammates. There's no question about that.
It's amazing. Galvez, Big Daddy back then.
Yeah, not so big anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Boy.
Yeah.
Man, it was really incredible. Cause there's a fraternal component to that whole football thing. And I remember being very nervous about that. Just thinking like,
sure.
Man, I spent 3 years building a brotherhood with my teammates at Mater Dei. And these guys have done the same thing. How's that going to work? Man, Kike, he's the first guy that came up to me with a big fat smile on his face, gave me a big old handshake. Hey, bro, welcome to Columbus. And Galvez, I remember more about the one thing I remember more about him than anything else is just one rep, head to head, on the whistle.
Yeah.
Stalemate.
Yeah.
One of the greatest moments of my life. I was like, hey guys, I can play football too.
There you go. Because that was the measuring stick right there. Yeah. It was.
And the thing is that every time I see Galvez, even though, we may not spend a lot of time together, whenever we see him, it's always fun. It's a big smile. It's a hug, bro. How are you, bro? How are you? So I'll always be thankful of the handful of guys that I was able to have that with, in that 1 year.
When did you develop your love for English? Literature, reading, words.
That goes back to 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a junior high teacher who hated that I was one of those kids that finished all my work and then just sat there with probably a smug look on my face. And she ran over to the bookshelf, snatched the book, and slammed it on my desk and said, "Here, read that." And it was Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Wow.
And
wow.
It was so funny because after that class came history, same teacher, same room. And I was reading Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and she was like, "Hey, put the book away. It's time for history." So I was like, "Yes, ma'am." I took out the history book, and I put the copy of Jonathan Livingston Seagull in the history book. And while they were talking about history, I was just finishing the book.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think she gave you that particular book on purpose because of who you are, or was it just a random choice? Because it's kind of an unusual book to give to an 8th grade boy. It's a great read. What do you think?
I'll tell you what. There's a beautiful mystery there.
Yeah, man.
There's a beautiful mystery there. I'll never know, but my heart will always tell me she sure did. She sure did pick that particular book, and I can honestly tell you that's why that's why I became an English teacher. that one experience.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how that happened? I still have Jonathan Livingston Seagull on my bookshelf at home. It's
Change your life.
absolutely. So, again, all of us that have become educators at different points in our life, we figured out that's what we wanted to do. I knew very early, other people found out later in life. What was your career trajectory to when was the moment, I think I want to teach? When did that happen for you, Juan?
First semester of college, I was pre-med.
Pre-med.
Pre-med, taking the tough sciences and just setting everything up to be a doctor one day and, repair ACLs better than my doctor repaired mine, hopefully. But I'll be honest with you, it happened almost immediately. That first science class, hated it. Just the worst experience of my life. Wanted nothing to do with anything biological. Now it just so happens that in the same semester I was knocking out an elective in, it wasn't even an English class, it was actually like a history class, but it was literature based. And it's amazing how we never forget those names. Mrs. Mannion in the 8th grade, Professor Peterson at FIU. Man, he just taught the living hell out of Niall Saga. And I wanted to be a Viking. I just wanted to grow up to be a Viking at that point.
It's a good career goal,
right? And it was in my first semester of college that I remember going to my counselor and saying, "Yeah, I'd like to change my major. I'm not going to be a doctor." "Oh, what do you want to be?" "I want to be a teacher." And I want to teach. I want to teach books.
That's fair. What did your parents say about that? What did your parents say? That's a big career paradigm shift there.
I think the first thing they said was, "Do you know what teachers make?"
Yeah.
And I really didn't care at the time. I was like, I don't care. I want to be in books, and I want to be talking about books with people, and just just reveling in the beauty of, that is, just
Words.
great writing.
Yeah.
Words.
Nothing like it.
My goodness.
So, what led you to teaching here?
Oh, boy.
Here we go.
So I'm finishing college and I'm doing really good. And I think that, everything's just going to like roll. I was like, why not my alma mater, And Brother Angelo, I had a nice little meeting with him. I had to put on my shirt and tie. I was looking good and feeling good. And he's like, "Yeah, why don't you go get some experience first, and then we'll think about you coming back here to teach."
That hurt.
I was crushed.
That hurt.
I was crushed. I was like, "Who does this guy think he is?" I took him at his word. Got certified. Everything was in line for me to begin. I learned that you don't answer the phone and you wait for messages. Otherwise, you end up in some schools that you may not want to be. You wait for the better public school messages than the tougher school messages, and you'll be okay. You'll survive teaching in the public school system. But and this is a whole nother rabbit hole. It was around that same time that I discerned a vocation to the priesthood. And I actually did the first year of seminary. And after that, I was ready to pick up right where I left off and just ready to go make a difference in the inner city and just, I get a call from Brother Angelo, same guy that told me that I needed to go get some experience before I taught here. And he's like, "Hey, heard from a guy who heard from a guy who heard from a guy that you spent a year in the seminary." I was like, "Yeah, I was looking into it. My parish priest thought it'd be for me." I checked it out, and here I am. So what do you think about coming to Columbus to teach religion? And I was like, yeah, okay. It's not what I'm really prepared for, but I mean, if you think that being raised Catholic and a year of seminary is enough to do that, sure. And he was like, yeah, you'll be all right. And next thing you know, here I am teaching a full load of intro to Catholicism, scripture, and eventually morality and ethics.
What did you learn in that 1 year at the seminary?
Changed my life.
In
Changed
what
my
way,
life.
Juan?
Despite all the twists and turns of life, I would not be who I am today at 51 had it not been for that 1 year. I learned what it truly means to be a man. I learned what it truly means to be a follower of Christ. And I also learned that is a journey that never ends. You know, the highs, the lows, the peaks, the valleys. But it was the best dadgum year of my life. And I really wanted to be a priest. I really felt that it was something that I would be good at. I mean, but God had other plans.
Okay. Did you feel that God had other plans? Did you sense that?
I sensed it the first day I taught. And I'm very
Cool.
thankful to Brother John Lasasso up in, well, now he's with God, but he was the one that said, hey, listen, this ain't for you. And I was crushed because I was like, listen, I sacrificed a first year of teaching to do this because my parish priest, who was a really, really good guy, said, listen, I think you ought to look into this. I know the vows are the big turnoff, but I could really see you preaching up a storm. And but Brother John said, listen, go home, go back to teach, go start your teaching career, go back to dating, go back to having fun. If a year from now you're not happy, we'll fly you back, put you right into year 2, and you can continue with this journey. But I got a feeling that once you start teaching, you ain't gonna stop.
It's amazing how people come into your life, right? And they may not be there that long, but they last forever.
Yeah,
Yeah, their impact lasts forever.
absolutely.
So when you taught religion, looking back, were you coming at it from a religious point of view or a spiritual point of view? Because as you know, there is a difference.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was just surviving at that point. I didn't know how little I knew about my faith.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
church on Sunday don't necessarily cut it.
Yeah.
And but I'm very thankful for those years because my goodness, at the same time that I was teaching these kids the basics in intro and getting a little deeper in scripture, and then the morality class, it was a blast. I was learning the faith with them. I was really learning the faith with them.
I was fortunate enough because of a scheduling glitch to teach morality and ethics, one section for 2 years. And I loved that. To me, this is my experience. I don't know how it was for you. I really felt like I was doing something in there because you could get into the heart of the matter with young men that needed some, guidance, direction, advice, whatever you want to call it, coming from a different, it's not like teaching history or English or what have you. I mean, how was that for you?
I felt more like a priest than I did a teacher.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just lucky that I had a slightly more developed brain and I could make more sense out of, the words on the page and was able to answer all those questions about transubstantiation and, resurrection and just the purpose of the miracle, just whatever, it was a, and I'll never forget Brother Brady, who was the department head at the time, pulled me aside after my 3rd year and he said, listen, I'm hearing the grumblings that there's an opening in English and you're looking at this as your opportunity to to make the switch, but I want you to know if you stick it out with us, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but we'll pay for your masters.
That's
not,
fine.
Not that little stipend here.
No, the real deal.
Yeah, the real deal. Yeah. And it was. Man, you want to talk about a 50-50?
Yeah.
Hey, 50-50. It could have gone either way, and I would have been happy whichever way it went. But it went the way it did. But I could very much be a very happy 27-year religion teacher right now.
How did you get into English? How did that transition occur?
Somebody didn't work out.
Okay. Hey, somebody else's misfortune becomes your opportunity.
It takes. I tell people all the time who ask me about this place, it takes a special kind of person.
Yeah, man.
Particularly
back then.
I don't care what public schools you've taught in. I don't care what private schools you've taught in. I don't care how many years you've taught. It takes a special kind of person to survive this. This is a very unique place. It's very different.
Yeah, it is. When did you become comfortable teaching English? How long did it take? Man,
I got to be honest with you, not very long.
Okay.
Not very long. I mean, certainly that first year, I can picture myself panicking with like worksheets and typing up tests and highlighting all the little literary devices that I got to make sure to cover, because that's what good English teachers do. And then not very long thereafter, it was just like, look, guys, just hang with me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read this because I know you guys will butcher it. I'm gonna read this. We're gonna pause. We're gonna talk about it, and that's where it started.
Given your druthers, perfect world, what course would you prefer to teach at Columbus in the English curriculum? You can teach anything. Which one would you choose?
You know what? Teaching freshmen, when I taught freshmen, it was the right time, it was the right place, it was the right people. Me and Coomer were a heck of a 1-2 punch. You can ask him about that. It was a quick little hop with the sophomores and the juniors, and then I found myself with the seniors. I almost fist fought Keith Crossman when he called me that June. I was driving to see my parents, and he calls me up and says, "Hey, we're calling you up, bro. We're calling you out of the bullpen." And I said, "I hate your guts. Why are you trying to break up a happy home? I got a good thing going here, man. Leave me alone." And he's like, "No, listen, I need you for the seniors." And I was very reluctant, and I was very angry. But you'd have to drag me kicking and screaming right now.
Funny how that happens, isn't it? Because, we've talked about this before. Everybody has their level. Some people, myself included, I would never teach anything but seniors. I would have been fired teaching ninth graders. No, seriously. But there are people that are afraid to teach seniors, and they prefer the little kids. You found your groove.
Yep. I had no idea that I would find as much joy as I have with those dudes. And I never complain about it, and I don't see them as like, suffering from the itis at a certain point of the year. And
Well, let me ask you, okay, I've seen you teach. You're demanding. Yes, you like them, they like you. But man, you got standards you're demanding, and we're at the tail end of senior year now. That's when people earn their money. People have no idea. People that teach ninth graders, sophomores, they have no idea how hard the end of senior year is in that classroom, because you earn it with them.
Yeah, they don't. As you came in earlier today, they don't want to be testing on John Donne's elegy at this point in the school year.
But they were.
They sure were.
But they were, and it takes a special kind of person to motivate them. Listen, we got to finish this. You can make deals, and everything else, but we're gonna finish this, and that was, and at the same time, they begin to realize it's almost over, and then they get a little sentimental, like, oh man, I'm leaving this place, So it's senior year is a great experience, and some kid said to me, and I know you can relate to this, many years ago. He said, "Sir, how many years you been teaching seniors?" I said, "I don't know, 30 years, whatever." He goes, "So every year of your life for the last 30 years has been senior year." And I never looked at it that way. And I said, "Bro, you are absolutely right. You get to celebrate senior year every year, and it's benefit, bro."
Yeah.
Do you ever think of that?
I haven't, but it's funny, I'm sure if, well, now it's not Keith, now it's Jeanette. I'm sure if Jeanette called me up one day in June telling me that she needs me for juniors or sophomores, I wouldn't be happy about it. The same way I wasn't happy.
No, I don't blame you.
Yeah, no, it's a good place to be. I embrace. This is for you, Lane. I embrace the suck.
There you go. There you go. You started the same year as Dave Pugh.
Sure did.
And you two hit it off instantly. We got a guy from Pittsburgh, the LA transplant, coming to Columbus. Your first impressions of Pugh?
Man, I would be amazed if he said anything different. We actually met, I think, on the practice field. And I don't know, it was just like two fishes to water. We were just simpatico from the beginning. We spoke the same language. We laughed at the same jokes. We coached a very similar way. Next thing I know, during my free period, I was hanging out with him in his office when he didn't have students. And fast forward a few years, he was the best man at my wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's funny because, I probably never see him. And that's just the reality. He lives in Broward. I live down here. He's a principal. I'm a teacher, coach. And it's hard to keep, social things. But when people ask me, like, hey, got any best friends? Yeah. Yeah. And Mr. Pugh's one of them. Dave's one of them, because I just know that despite the fact that, we don't hang out that much and we don't even really see each other that much, I know when I pick up the phone to call, he picks up on his end too, and vice versa.
It surprised you at all that he became the principal he's become?
Nah.
No.
Nah. He's as good at what he does as and I say this in all humility, as I am at what I do. I wouldn't have expected anything less.
Yeah. You've had the pleasure of coaching linebackers for a very, very long time. And this school has had tremendous linebackers. For whatever reason, the position of linebacker, some of the greatest football players we've ever had have been linebackers, and they all fit that certain category. It takes a special person to coach linebackers because those guys are different, as we know, and they think different and they act different, and there's a mentality that goes into that. How much have you enjoyed, coaching the linebackers, and then end up now you work with one of the guys, that was playing when you were coaching, and talk about your linebacking coaching career.
Man, I'll be honest with you, John. I remember the first time I asked you for a handful of drills.
Yeah,
I
remember.
And
yeah.
There was a certain amount of pressure because you were kind of like the Mount Rushmore face of Columbus linebacking, and when my number was called, I had to work for a man, Alex Trujillo, who had to follow your footsteps
Yeah.
and had to do what he could to keep the ship sailing or even take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And I felt the same pressure when I was given the opportunity. You know, it was very much I can't mess this up.
I get that.
You know, I'm following in the footsteps of John Lynskey and Alex Trujillo, and the expectations
Yeah, I know.
are
'Cause
high.
I inherited that from Dennis Lavelle. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And you know, but coaching those guys is quite something. They see the world differently. They see the game differently, and they are very, very aggressive people, and you don't want to take that away from them. You've got to channel it, however, and it can get a little tough with those guys. They don't play, you know. They don't play. That's why they're linebackers.
Yeah, I think that feeling that I was sharing with you, it trickles into the linebackers, and there are moments where I'll just say something that I'm sure you and Alex at many times told them, which was, look, we have to be the alpha males on this field.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a great way of putting it.
You know, we can love our brother DBs and our brother D lines, but there are little brothers.
Yeah,
Okay, this field is ours. It's ours to command, and we're the ones that have to set the tone.
yeah.
And I got a feeling that I'm going to get all kinds of like call outs from like D-line coaches and TV coaches. I'm going to have to watch my back on campus.
They can say whatever they want because what you just said is true. Because no one has the glint in their eye that a linebacker has.
Failure's not an option.
No,
Period.
no. And you've just had the pleasure of coaching through the career of, listen, we've had some great ones. But Hector, that's a different deal right there.
Yeah.
Watching him play on a daily basis, practice and play, had to be, you knew you were to say, this is something special.
Yeah. It's just a good kid. You know, he's a young man, but you know, to guys our age, I look at it and I'm like, he's just a good kid, and he's gonna have the opportunity to do something very special.
Yeah.
As he begins the next chapter of his life.
And you know, you've coached with two guys that were great players here, Alex Trujillo, as you mentioned, and Lane Jackson, who is the epitome of a Columbus linebacker.
Yeah, man.
You know,
I'll be honest with you. We talk about this often. We have not had a Lane Jackson around here since Lane Jackson. He's a different kind of dude.
well, yeah, Navy SEAL, you know, but he, again, the epitome of a linebacker. Yeah. So you've coached in 5 state championships games, and you've won 3 of them. Each one is different, of course. Which one resonates the most with you of the 3 wins?
The first.
Daytona.
It will always be the first.
Yeah.
That's not to say that the second wasn't special and the third wasn't special, but that first, there's a feeling that I don't think I'll ever feel that again, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
Because I got to feel it in that moment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
As an English teacher, if you had to recommend an American author, let's just say this. You love the beats. We've had many, many discussions about the beats.
Have.
If you had to pick out one of the beat writers for someone to read, which author would it be and which book would it be? I know it's a hard question,
Yeah, but
You can pick out a couple if you want.
but the answer is going to be our old boy Jack Kerouac.
Which one?
No question.
Which book?
You got to start with the first, On the Road.
You okay?
It's got to be on the road. It's that first step.
Which one is your favorite of his?
Wow.
Yeah, On the Road's required. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Probably Big Sur.
Big Sur's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Who else among the Beats? Not only that, and why your love for the Beats?
Bukowski's there,
Yeah.
and probably commenting on Bukowski would be answering your second question. Not many people have many good things to say about Charles Bukowski,
Yeah.
but boy, did he live his brand of life to the fullest.
You had a period in your life that you lived to the fullest. There's no question about that. How did your spirituality help you through the trials and tribulations of life?
It's really simple.
Okay.
There is a God. Jesus is his son, and he's always with me. And I really felt that the more I tried to complicate things, the more complicated it got. But when I took steps back and just looked at everything from a very simple perspective, and I learned that from the Franciscans. I never mentioned that that's who I was with. The order of friars that I was going to join with was and they were all about simplicity and yeah, I'm in a very happy place in terms of just walking around with that childlike simplicity.
That's perfect. What a great way of putting it. We win the state title in December of 19. March of 2020, COVID, lockdown, life changes. Life changed for you too. You'd come from California with an aching in your heart, and then you made a decision to move back out west. And we've all many people have gone through changes where it was just the right time to try something else. I know COVID had a big impact on a lot of people in that regard. You went out to Arizona. You gave it a shot, and we had an interesting conversation about it the other day, about the value of this place in comparison when you're not here anymore. So there's nothing wrong with giving it a try, but you told me very quickly you found out, I love Arizona, but I can't teach here.
Yep. It's very simple. I love the great state of Arizona. I love its landscape. I love its weather. I love its people. And I remember saying this to the faculty at a quick little re-intro when I first got back. I just found myself almost daily saying, it's not Columbus. It would be better at Columbus. I would be allowed to at Columbus. That phrase haunted me.
Who did you call about coming back?
My other best friend, Alex Trio.
What'd you say to him?
Man, well, we never lost touch when I was gone. And we were always talking about how everything was going with the school and football and COVID. My God, what a time to take this journey. But I don't know. I can honestly tell you that in our conversations, I could just feel everything lining up.
Nice.
Everything just lined up. I mean, I don't have any doubt in my mind that this is where God wants me. I mean, if we had more time and we traded more details about that time, I can honestly tell you that in my mind, I have told myself over and over, He wants me here. There's no way that this lines up the way it did. You want me here. Here I am.
Here I am, Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, talking to Al, it just, all of our conversation was just like, oh, that's interesting that, this is where you're at. Because let me tell you where we're at. And it just so happens that.
Yeah. And you came back and it was like you never left. Once you got back in the swing of things, school's a little bit different post-COVID, of course. Everybody went through that. But here you are, man.
Yeah.
You're happy.
Amen.
You're part of this. And we hope you remain a part of this. And, you're a great man. You're someone I admire very much. We have a lot of common interests, and again, you were talking about Pew. Same thing. I don't see you as much as I would like to see you.
Yeah.
But when we talk, it's like that,
Amen.
just like this has been. It's been amazing. Last question for you, my friend.
Sure.
What does being Marist mean to Juan Moscoso?
Finding those that need the most help and staking your claim with them for as long as it takes.
It's called presence, baby. That's perfect. Juan, thank you so much.
No,
I've
thanks for
enjoyed
having me.
this. And thank you to the Albert Bartholomew family for generously sponsoring Looking Back with Lynskey. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation with the one and only Juan Moscoso. My brother, thank you very much. So, Explore Nation, until next time, buenos tiempos and adelante. Appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, brother.